So, welcome to the Black Script Storytellers. I am Kevin Marable, and today we have a very special guest. We have actor Donnie Brown Jr. in the building. Donnie, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, brother. Glad you had me.
Of course, man. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm glad
Yeah.
that we finally made it happen. So,
Oh yeah. It's
we're going to
exciting.
get into it today.
Mhm.
And first and foremost, the very first question that I like to ask everybody when they join is a simple question. However, sometimes it can be difficult to answer. Are
Okay.
you ready?
All right. Let's shoot.
All right. The question is, who is Donnie Brown Jr.?
Huh. It's a simple question, but it's difficult because Donnie Brown is ever evolving. You know, last year's Donnie Brown is a different Donnie Brown from today, but still the same.
Mhm.
Um, Donnie Brown is a go-getter. He's a motivator. He's dogmatic. He's passionate. He is unwilling to settle. He's a man. He's a father. He's a son. He's a brother. Um, he is a man that's on a mission to leave his legacy while pursuing his calling and his passion. That's just a little bit of who Donnie Brown is.
I love it, man. I love it, man. That was good freestyle too, man.
Hey, you know, we didn't prep for this. This is all of the cuff. So anybody
Right.
watching, they getting this live.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So let me ask you, what led you, or let me ask you a different way. How
Okay.
did you find your way into acting?
That's a funny story. Well, I give a lot of credit to my baby sister because, long story short, went to a casting call some years back, and she wanted to go out there. She did a little modeling before, and she was like, "Hey, they're casting this movie, and they're looking for all different type of people, and I think you should come with me." I was like, "Girl, I ain't never did no movie, nothing like that." So at the time, my niece was maybe about 6 months, maybe a year. So my thought process was, "Look, I will come with you. I'll
Mhm.
stand in line, help you hold a baby. We'll just see what happens, whatever." And I'm in line, and a casting director walks by, and it's hundreds of people. They have resumes, headshots. I'm looking like, all right, okay. And I'm just standing there. And the casting director at the time looked at me, and the question was, she said, "Are you an actor?" And my response was, "Not yet."
Mm.
I was being sarcastic, but she was like, "Perfect answer." And she pulled me
Right.
out of line. I was like, "Wait a minute, hold on." And so we ran in line. We read some lines. I didn't know anything about acting at the time, but it triggered something like, oh, maybe it's a little interest in this thing. It kind of
Wow.
opened my eyes to some doors I'd never seen before. And I was like, let's go get it. And that kind of
And,
just got the trickling effect of me getting to where I am now.
and how long ago was this?
That original casting call was probably 2015, 16-ish.
Okay.
And then it was
Wow.
like another year or two passed before I actually got myself into like some commercials and some things of my own. And then I started to say, okay, if I'm going to do this, let me do it.
Wow.
Mhm.
So relatively about 7, 8 years.
Mhm. From the initial
Right.
catalyst of this acting thing. Yeah.
Wow. Let me ask you, what was your very first success story when it comes to acting? Or what would you deem as your very first success story?
uh, well, for the actors, we know there's a lot of successes that may not seem like successes
Yes.
from the outside looking in. But I would say my very first quote unquote success was probably booking my own commercial by myself. I was just watching TV one day on my couch, and a commercial for the local transit bus system that came up, and something flashed on TV and it went away.
Hmm.
I was like, what's that? So, you know, I'm old school. I'm Googling, I'm looking up, trying to find. So I went through the TV station first,
Uh-huh.
found out who did it. They had nothing on their website. And then what happened was I went directly to the bus station,
Mm.
and I was like, you know, I'm one of these people, I'm gonna go after it. So I'm gonna find it. So I was like, hey, I was saw that you had a commercial on TV, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, they said, okay, hold on. They transferred me to the department head of marketing, which I don't know if they were supposed to transfer me to that number, but they did. When they did so, I had a small conversation, and they said, "Hey, okay, if you're available this day, send me a headshot of what you look like, and
Right.
if you're available." I didn't have headshots. So I had to literally go on my phone, crop a picture that I was holding my niece in of kind of what I looked like. And a week later, I booked the commercial.
Wow. Wow.
That was probably my very first, yeah, I just thought about it. That's my very first success in this thing called acting. Uh-huh. Yeah, but that's funny. That was actual success. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but yeah, that was, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So to my knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
you've featured in, you starred in Forgetting Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in Million to One.
Yes.
Well, before we go any further, Forgetting Christmas with Cadell Cook
Yes.
brought you on, and then Million
Yes.
to One is with Harold Jackson.
Earl Jackson. Yes, indeed.
Um, you also have another project called The Exit Row. I'm not
Yes.
familiar with who produced that or who filmed that.
That's with Cinema 30 Media, which is
Oh, okay.
Miss Vanetta Cornish.
Yes, I need to
I've
speak
done,
with her too.
yeah, see, so
Yeah.
I'm doing Bye for Now. That's with Queen, Katrina Queen. I mean, so we got I've done another project with Harold again. I'm on The Novelist. I stay a
Right.
little
That's
busy.
right.
They keep me working. I've
Yeah.
some other projects that haven't fully come to fruition, but they out there with some major and some other people around this area that I can't really say,
Of
but
course.
there's some more things out there. But yeah, I will say that I've been fairly busy. And then back to that story, just kind of quick um, before I jumped the gun. So kind of getting into the acting, when I finally decided to take this kind of serious, um, I used Denzel kind of as my blueprint because I said if I'm going to follow
Mhm.
anybody's footstep, this kind of the way to go. So I did a 6-week theater class. I did an additional 6-week theater class, and then in that same year, around June, I took my very first acting class for camera. And in that same year, like I said, back to kind of following my blueprint of what I was looking at as far as acting goes. And the reason it makes it important because, for anyone going into this, you have to have a belief system in what you're doing. And there has to be a plan. Even when you don't know what you're doing, you still kind of have to have some type of direction or plan of where you're going. This all kind of happened in 2019. I knew February 26th sticks out because it's the day before my sister's birthday. But 2019, theater class for 6 weeks, another theater class for 6 weeks, acting for television class that June, and then I booked my first lead in a feature that same September,
Wow.
all
Wow.
within like 9 months. So then, because I had no preconceived notions of what acting was, so I'm kind of like, if this is what we need to do, I'm just going to do it
Yeah.
without, not necessarily with some of the biases or maybe the fears and other things that an early actor would know. Now, of course, I've had to go through the other things like everyone else, but I think that was one thing I think may have been to my advantage
Hmm.
because I don't know if I was crazy enough not to know what it wasn't supposed to be. So in my mind, I was like, I'm supposed to win. I'm supposed to book. You couldn't tell me any difference because it
Right.
kind of happened that way. And I still have to go through the journey.
Right. Right.
You know,
Who was the acting class through? Was that a
currently right
particular?
now.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Say it again.
well, the class at that time was acting for the camera with Elizabeth Byland Murray. She's out of Richmond, which is in VCU. But my current acting coach is Mark McKinnon at McKinnon Acting
Yes.
Studios up
Yes. Shout
here.
out to Mark McKinnon.
Yeah, that's my guy. So we stay working, we stay doing stuff. I will say that, and this is one thing he will always say. In a larger market, sometimes L.A., New York, Atlanta, a lot of your main actors, the people that we see on TV all the time, this is
Mhm.
about perfecting your craft and really always sharpening your craft. So you may see someone on a big project or see them on a movie or something like that, but if they're not filming, they're still back in class. They're still sharpening. They're still with that coach. That's something that I always encourage, even in this area, because a lot of us, there are a lot of, very talented, very good working actors in the DMV, and I will always encourage them. For the one, I know there's ones that do it, and if there are ones that are not, even
Right.
if you're not training here, train somewhere. Always sharpen your craft. Always.
And within that class, if you don't mind mentioning, uh, is there anything that you necessarily sharpened or that you focused on?
I will say because I stayed so busy last year. I mean, I had project after project, and that's not a complaint. Thank you, thank God. That was a
Yeah.
great thing to have. What the class environment gave you was now that I'm not back on set. It's kind of like I'm a sports guy, so it's like me going back to practice, getting back in the weight room, doing those things
Hmm.
live, in person, with other hungry actors who's trying to come up like what you're doing. So you get to see stuff from a lot of different perspective, and it's almost like a barometer, right? You can make sure it's to say, all right, I'm really hitting on everything that I need to do. And if there's any things that I might need to make adjustments to and things of that nature, to have a coach like Coach Mark McKinnon, who's live in the business now because he's also a working actor himself. So a
Right.
lot of the things that we use, I'm in his master class, a lot of things that we use in our master class are for today's actor or what we need now in the industry. So that's always a plus when walking out this acting career.
Hmm. And what do you think some of the tools are that actors need today, without fully giving it all away? Because I know Mark McKinnon has a specific path to take. I don't
Yeah,
want to give away everything in this class. If you guys are interested, definitely go to McKinnon
definitely,
Acting School
definitely,
and sign
definitely.
up. You know what I'm
Sign
saying?
up
But if
online
you,
and in person.
yes, but if you could, what are some of the tools that actors need today?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to know is the business of acting.
Mm,
A lot of people don't know the business side of it. They think it's just the performance side. And you have a lot of great talent that don't understand the business because it's still a business. And the business can be everything from how you present yourself on social media to what your visual looks like as far as your headshots, things of that nature, who to
mhm,
reach out to, how to seek a manager, how to seek agents, things of that nature that, if you're a young upcoming actor and you say, I'm just talented, I want to get in front of a screen or on stage, that you may not know. So that's part of, before you get in the master class, they have another great class who's taught another great acting friend of mine, Miss Amber Miller Moore, who teaches on the business of acting. And then the master class you have, which starts to break down character development,
mhm,
confidence, being sure who you are in front of that camera,
right.
how the difference of just how to book a co-star role to a serious record. Just so many different layers. We do sometimes we go in comedic, we go deep, we go vulnerability. I think
Mhm,
that, as an artist, as an actor, just like if I was an athlete, you have to find those ways to push you every day on every project to want to be better.
right. Absolutely, man. Can we talk a little bit about the talent that is in the DMV area?
Oh yeah.
There is a huge pool of talent in
Hmm.
this area,
Yeah.
and I think that in most cases it goes untapped.
Hmm.
But I think over time, and people are starting to see that there's a lot of talent here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of independent filmmakers in this area
Hmm.
who are definitely making their mark.
Yes.
Um, what are your thoughts on the talent pool in this area, and um, the stamp that we're trying to put on the DMV, in this industry?
I mean, I love it. I being from the DMV, working here, when this acting thing started to take off, my sights were straight for New York, right? Kind of looking at the East Coast version of the mecca of acting, and then you have LA as its own barometer as well. And I kind of had to stay here for a moment because I started to navigate in this area right here in home,
Mhm.
and it was like okay. And then you start to see the pool of talent around you. Um, and like I said, I love being in the room with other talented people because it keeps you sharp. And I'm starting to look around and I'm like, okay, okay. And
Yeah.
then the advantage that I like with the DMV is because the unknown is it's like the silent killer because we're coming to get them. If they don't know us, you'll hear me say this all the time. I say, you may not know me when I show up, but you'll never forget me when I leave.
I love it, man.
And that's just my mentality. That's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
So and that's what the DMV is doing now. And
Uh,
I believe from some of the bigger productions we have here to the very very strong and talented independent directors and writers and producers here, and the talent itself, I mean, is unmatched.
right,
There's talent that I've worked with. I've worked in New York, other places like that, and let me tell you, the talent here is here as
right.
well. And the fact that people are just starting to notice it is good. It's great.
Mhm.
We kind of already know that we were here, but I'm glad that the world is starting to see what's already here in the DMV.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's definitely a lot of talent in this area, and if I have anything to do with it, I'm gonna make sure that
Appreciate you, brother.
we get that
Yeah,
spotlight.
we get that. Absolutely. Oh, they don't know.
Right. Okay. So you receive a screenplay for the very first time. How do you prepare for the role?
The Donnie Brown method. Everybody wants to know that method. I give you a little bit, not of my whole secret. No, so no, what's for me is for me. I'm always, I will say that I'm a giver in this industry as far as anything I know
Hmm.
that can help somebody add something to their tool belt, I don't mind. So for me, when I get a script, I'm booked, and this is my role. I just read it for knowledge. I read it for knowing the story, because acting is not just about memorizing lines and regurgitating them back out, right?
Right.
And then some people want to get very deep at, no, I need to know the story. I can't be a storyteller if I don't know the story. So I'm one of these people, and some directors can attest for it. I will read a script 3, 4, 5, 6 times just to read it, not to memorize, just to have a complete, clear picture in my mind of what the story is, where we're
Hmm.
starting, what we
Hmm.
got in the middle, and where we're going. And then for me, then I start working backwards. So then each scene I'm in is a smaller story to the bigger story. So now I know my smaller stories. And then I add the pieces in as far as the actual lines.
Right.
Because as an actor, and I'm one that has some pretty good skills in improvisation as well, I know that you can get in a scene, and if your scene partner or some lines get changed, this and that, can you still tell the story? And that's the overall goal for me as an actor when I get a script or I get some footage. That's how I do it. And I've been doing it. It's been consistent. It works. That's kind of my rhythm.
Right.
So
You mentioned earlier you did theater acting classes, but have
mhm.
you actually performed in theater?
I have performed in theater as well.
Can we talk a little bit about your theater experience?
Yeah, it was short lived because I felt like my path was going toward TV and film because that was my passion. But my personal opinion, and as an opinion, I must state this up front, I
Hmm.
believe that our most successful TV and film actors have a foundation in theater.
Yes.
And I would suggest that to any new upcoming actor because that's going to be your foundational, line on line. How do I learn how to memorize? How do I learn how to position my blocking? I learned the fundamentals of this thing called acting. And I would
Hmm.
highly suggest to getting a good theater class, get with a good theater company to teach you those basics because those are things that you can translate to film. I
Hmm.
did a couple programs in Virginia. Did I do something up here? I don't think I did anything up here. But yeah, it's a different ball game because when you're doing it's fast paced, it's consistent, it's over and over. There's no cut, there's no
Right.
stop the cameras. You
Yeah.
can hear the people reacting to what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
you can
You got
almost
to be
touch
on
them.
it.
You got to
Yeah.
be on it. But
Yeah.
those are the disciplines you need. I believe. Look at the people we deem the greats out there: the Meryl Streeps, the De Niro's, the Denzels, Violas, Sam Jacksons. They have stage. They know that stage,
Right.
and I believe that's what made them stronger. Because natural talent's only going to take you but so far in this industry. It's a
Hmm.
craft for a reason, and because it's a craft, you got to hone that craft and find those things that make your craft strong.
Right. And a lot of those actors, even though they are the greats and they're titans in this business,
Yes,
they still go back to the stage,
absolutely.
and polish those skills time and time again whenever they're not working on a movie or whatever it is that they're doing. They find time to go to make it back to
And
stage.
that's what keeps you sharp because it's like energy. It's like I'm not a gamer now, but just imagine playing a video game and then actually going to the basketball court and playing. It's
Right.
the energy you got being in the game, and I think that the stage and training and back in classes gets that energy back to being back engaged in the game to
Right.
keep you sharp and keep you at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the fact that there's no retakes, it also
No
forces
retakes.
you to get it on
Yeah.
the very first take and to work under pressure.
Yeah.
um where when you're working in front of a camera, that they can say cut, and let's take it from the top, let's do it
Mhm.
again, or whatever the case may be. Whereas on stage, the show must go on.
And it must go on the same way every single time.
Yes. Yes,
Every single time.
absolutely, man. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you face today?
um, yeah, I thought you would ask me this question. And I had to ask myself this question. For me, the biggest challenge is the business a little bit.
Okay.
Because when you come from, coming from a sports background, and I've had discussion with other actors. This is the only business where no is the normal answer,
Hmm.
where you can literally check off every box, and somebody might go, well, if you did in a sport, if I'm fast enough, I'm strong enough,
Right.
I know I'm going to make it. And I don't say it's the most challenging, but I will say the consistency to stay disciplined and not lean in motivation.
Hmm.
Because when you're motivated to do this, some days you're going to feel like it, some days you won't. When you're booking, you feel like you're doing a great thing. But when you hear crickets and you haven't booked in a while, then you start questioning it. So I think that if there is a challenge of any sort, it's going to always to be diligent and be disciplined throughout the process.
Hmm.
Because you have to understand there's a process, and it's great when you're booking, but when you're not booking, that fire and that hunger has to still keep going,
Yeah.
no matter the final result. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest challenge, because when you're working and booking, it seems like, oh, I'm just on every project. And then what happens when it's been 4 months, when it's been a year, when it's been 2 years, and now you have to start going, is this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right.
Is this but I say that not necessarily for me, but I just know that's kind of a general thing that I've seen or heard in the industry. And I've had my moments there before I had a very, very successful year last year. It was a few months where it was like, you checking emails, you checking phone. Man, I know that
Right.
audition was good. I ain't hear
Exactly.
nothing, so, I tell anybody, do the work. Just do the work, stay
Mhm.
hungry, stay disciplined. It's going to happen.
Absolutely. And to stay hungry when there's nothing there.
Right.
And to keep looking, not just, once you do, audition here, audition there, and you're waiting for the results or waiting for the
Hmm.
answer. Still put your name out there. Still, make yourself seen, make yourself heard. Reach back, follow up.
Yes.
All of those things. And
And that's
I
the nature
feel,
of the business. And
yeah,
that's where I tell people, I do something toward acting every day.
right.
There is something, because you have to be intentional, right? If I
Hmm.
want to be intentional about being successful, I have to be intentional about my craft and who I am as a brand and everything else that goes along with it. And
Right.
also, do you have a life outside of your craft?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, because you still have to balance that side too. That's a
Hmm.
healthy balance too. Because now, if you don't hear nothing from acting, you just stop living? Absolutely not.
Right.
You have to find something that pulls you, that can still maybe associated with it or kind of keep you motivated. But
Hmm.
again, at the same time, you have to have, I'm one of these people, you have to be dogmatic. You have to be dogmatic, intentional about what you want, especially in this craft and this career.
Hmm.
And I don't take no's for answers. I'm going to get a yes, and I'm going to either tell myself yes when I want to tell myself no. I have to
Exactly.
tell me yes. I don't accept my own no's. So that's how I feel like in this career. So I'm going to reach back. I'm going to double up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
I'm going to make the phone calls, make the emails, check this, watch that new show. Why? Because you're going to probably get an audition on it. Just the things that you can't
Right.
take any of that for granted.
Yeah. Do your homework.
You know.
Be diligent. And
Mhm.
in some cases, somewhat be delirious.
You
In
know, you you would question your sanity how you do this, but
Yeah.
man, but I would say anyone that's passionate out at anything, you have to be, normal is not accepted.
Hmm.
Mediocre will never be accepted when you want to go after your call and your passion. And if you're
Right.
willing to live, and if you're willing to live in mediocre and just enough, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah. What is something you would have told yourself now that you've or let me rephrase that question.
Mhm.
What is something that you would have done differently now that you're in the business? What is something that you would have done differently in the beginning? Um,
I know, save some more money because acting ain't cheap. Yeah, man, I probably would have, if I knew, I mean, you kind of know, but you kind of, my path was a little bit different than
mhm.
the normal, because this wasn't like years. I wasn't a kid like I'm gonna grow up and be an actor, so it wasn't that thing. But I would say, stack up some money,
Yeah,
have it to the side, because you may have to fly out, you may have to do this, you have to pay for certain things,
absolutely.
headshots, and you have to, because it's an investment. This is also an investment into your craft. That's
Mhm.
probably one of the things that I would have done different. Anything else? Nah. I kind of like my journey because it was different. So I probably wouldn't have changed anything else.
What are some of the roles that you are currently looking for?
I'm good. I'm glad you asked that. I played some funny roles. Man, I played some roles. Harold will tell you, even A1, I was like, man, I don't want to play this role. You got to be great. I thought we laugh about it now, but I was like,
Yeah.
really? That guy? I didn't like that guy, but it worked. I mean, hey, it worked.
Right.
So right now, it's probably two particular characters I would love to play, because they would be very easy, but I know I love to play. I want to play a villain, and I'm not
Mm.
talking about the soft-spoken villain. I'm talking about
You're
I'm talking
talking
about
about like
what
a
a
Joker villain.
Joker villain. I mean, if I had to explain this character to people to understand it, it would be a cross between probably Denzel in Training Day,
Okay.
Amari Hardwick playing Ghost,
Uh-huh.
and Robert De Niro on Cape Fear. If you could blend those
Oh
all in one.
man.
Yeah, you see what I'm leaning to. I want that character because I think for me, it'll give me some fun vulnerability I can do
Hmm.
because I know me.
So
So
you just waiting on that role to
yeah,
hit
and
your lap.
I'm not necessarily waiting because I'm a creative if it don't come. But at the same time, I think also as an artist, it'll give people a different perspective and get to see, oh, because in this craft you want to kind of show some of that range. And for
Yes.
me personally, that'll be kind of me just taking a deep breath and just having some real fun. I have fun all the time, but that want to be extra fun for me personally.
Yeah.
Also, I on the flip side, the other character would be having the character that challenges my vulnerability emotionally.
Mm.
Maybe a type of character that may be going through something terminal, some type of illness, and you're
Yeah.
watching the stages as they kind of go, and
Wow.
really even being willing to kind of change physically, maybe slimming down, doing some things to really challenge me on that vulnerability side, and really open up that side on the character. But those are
Mhm.
two characters. If I had my quote unquote roles, I would do now. Those are kind of ones I would do.
Do you practice method acting? When you get into character, do you try to stay in that character, or even when you're practicing?
Um, Method acting can be described so many different ways. I will say this. Um, I have enough storage here in
Mhm.
real life that a lot of that stuff I don't have to method act. I can just tap into real life situations.
Right.
And I believe there's a healthy balance of when you're there, but you have to get out of the character because it's still your job.
Hmm.
But I have my own ways of being locked in, right? And the quote unquote method acting has taken turns over the years where some people have been deemed to take it too far or this, that, and the third. I believe that, I'm one of those ones, and this is just me. I can go right and be where I need to be.
Yeah.
But I prepare like that because confidence comes through your preparation. That's just certain ways I prepare, and I make notes and I know certain things, and I use situations, circumstance. I use what I need to do to get me there and stay there. So if that kind of answers your question, then
Yeah. No, it
yes,
does.
but not to the point where I'm not walking around like a psycho at the gym or doing something crazy because I might do that anyway at the gym if y'all see me there. But I mean, I don't have to be quote unquote in character
Right.
outside the script, but I do have my ways of knowing when it's kind of getting there, what kind of keeps me locked in and what keeps me where I need to be.
Yeah.
So when it's time, it's time.
Yeah. What's funny is I kind of find it interesting. You have a very like kind, lighthearted personality persona to you, just from my
Okay,
perception.
I thank
Um,
you.
and what I find interesting is that a lot of people who are like that tend to want to be a villain, or tend to want to be the flip side of who they actually are.
Or is that who? Well, I would say this because I've lived a little bit.
Yeah.
You may only be seeing the latter of who I was,
Mm, okay.
but
I
that
like
means I'm
that.
doing my job good.
Absolutely. And
Because
that's the whole
I will say
role.
this for me,
Yeah.
and it's not that I'm being anybody else, but I
Hmm.
will say this. If you can't put your finger on who I am, that means I'm kind of good because you don't know me enough to take away from my characters.
Yes. Yes. The
Because
best
I want
characters.
I want you to be any character I am, you're like, oh, that's him. Because
Yes.
there's some people that might hear say he ain't nice, but
Right.
there's some other people like he's great. I mean, it's all perception, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I mean, I am nice most of the time. But I will say that you know, for me,
Hmm.
there's a truthful me in every character.
Okay.
It may not be the whole character, but there is something in me in every character so far that I played because that's the way I'm able to get into that character. Excuse me, I almost knocked my screen over. But that's the way I'm able to get into those characters. I mentioned it, I think, with the Forgetting Christmas,
Hmm.
even with the character in Million to One who I didn't like. But the one thing about him that was very much me, I am very sure of myself. I'm very confident.
Right.
So I use that piece even though I didn't totally like who he was as a person, my character. But that was the redeeming factor, the thing I could hold on to, because in acting, you never want to look like you're acting. You want to look like you're just being.
Right.
So for me, I have to find that one thing or two or whatever those amount of things are that really speak to who Donnie really is, and say, okay, okay.
Yeah. We're not, none of us are one dimensional. So,
Mhm.
we do have all of those different aspects to us.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, but I can see how, in some cases you'd want to draw it out of you, because it maybe in some cases it might be a challenge.
Mhm.
But then in other cases, I think it's also that there's something inside of you that's like, I want to be able to show people that I have this, I
Right,
have
yeah,
this side to me.
because one word, and I this can be a curse word sometimes in the acting industry, the word typecast,
Yes.
because you'll have people fearful of, don't just see me as one character. Now, some people get typecast, and that one character takes off and does it. I get it,
Right. Yeah.
but for the arts, for the craft, for everything it is, all of us are like onions. We got layers. We got
Hmm.
layers. We got layers. Sometimes it takes us 30 plus years to be nice because we may not have been nice before.
Right.
Sometimes it can be reverse. I mean, it could be where you've been nice so long, you said, I'm tired of being nice.
Exactly.
Or you have life that's happened in between the arts and the characters where it's like, no, y'all have only seen one part of my story. And if you really pay attention to this side of the story, now
Let me show you
let me
this.
show you some of this. And because it's just like, again, I always go back to sports. It's like, if you only think I can do that, wait till you see this.
Right.
But that's just me.
Right.
That's just me.
What are some of the most important questions that actors need to ask when walking into an audition? I know typically when you go into an audition, you're the person that's auditioning for, the casting
Right.
directors.
Right.
But are there any important questions or anything that you should ask when walking into an audition?
Well, I wouldn't suggest necessarily asking questions initially walking to the audition. There may be questions that you need before the audition that
Okay.
you should know. If we're talking about the business of the acting itself, you should know the characters, you know the shoot dates, you should know those things, you should know your
Hmm.
availability,
Hmm.
because you shouldn't walk in this room. I know, you're going to always hear people say, take every job you can in acting, right?
Yeah.
But it will get to the point that you have to start looking at quality over quantity,
Right.
because as your work is being good, you want to make sure you're still doing good work. I think some of those questions will be asked to yourself. Do
Mm.
you believe in your role? Are you willing to go here? Are you willing to really sacrifice what it needs to take to pursue this role, this project, what it needs? And then once you get through the acting, the process, I think you can ask certain questions depending on what type of project you're on. A lot of times they do give you the information of, would you be available here? So on and so forth, things of that nature. But I think a lot of that can be done before you walk
Mm.
in an audition, because when you go into audition, that's your time to work. You have to look at it like this. When you go into audition, that's your 5, 10 minutes that you still have the job.
Right.
I mean, because technically them seeing you have the audition, they're giving you the job. So almost the best way to kind of look at it is your job to lose.
Mm.
Because I'm kind of giving you the job by even wanting to see you audition. We just need to
Right.
confirm that this is the job for you.
Right.
That's kind of the mindset to have, because and when you're young, I've been there. You go in there and you see how much this thing is paying. You look at how much your bills are. You're like, man, I need this. I need to book this, and and the desperation is written all over your
Right.
face.
By
Is
any means necessary.
but again, when that's the forefront, then the desperation is written all over you, and people are going
Yeah.
to see it,
Yeah.
right? So
Absolutely.
I would say go in there with your confidence, do the pre work before,
Mm.
and just go show them that they were right about giving you this job.
Right.
And don't go in there trying to give them what you think they want to see.
Hmm.
Do the homework. You give them interpretation of what you want them to see, not what you think they want to see.
Right.
Because they may see 50 people do it the same way you thought about it, and you come and do a total reverse, and you will be the one remembered, whether you book it or not.
Right.
And be
And you won't
confident.
and you won't necessarily know walking out the door,
You
right?
won't know walking out the door. And the same thing about it, and realize you told your story. You had your opportunity to tell the story,
Hmm.
and whether you book it or not, it's okay.
Right.
You have to be able to tell yourself it's okay. And that's a question you have to ask yourself. If we don't book this job, are you okay?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Out of all the projects that you've worked on thus far, what would you say is a favorite of yours and why?
Man, don't get me in trouble with that question.
I'm not asking you to pick or choose sides. I'm just saying, like, or maybe like
Oh man.
a favorite
I mean,
experience.
I'm not gonna get in trouble because I love working with everybody at DMV and they still love working with me. So
Right.
it works. They're like, oh Don, that's how we gonna do it. No, I will say this. Let me precursor this. All of them are my favorite because I will say this, and I've worked in multiple areas, but man, and this is no lie. It's just a different energy getting to work in the DMV.
Yeah.
Whether I'm working with Harold, which I work with Harold all the time, big shout out to Harold Jackson,
Oh
Cadell,
man, big
Jimmy
shout out to her.
Ward, Miss Tawana Terrell,
Yeah.
Vanetta. I mean, you name them. I've worked probably with pretty much everyone here in the DMV. I love working with them. The ones I haven't worked with yet, we'll be working soon.
Mm,
So because I love the environment, I love the vibe, I love the drive of everyone here.
right.
Now, as far as there's no one that's better or worse than the other. Now, I can tell you maybe my favorite character so far. Um,
Mm,
hmm, Forgetting Christmas is close
yeah. You were great
because
in Forgetting
because
Christmas,
thank you,
man.
sir. I appreciate it because it was totally outside of who natural Donnie is to a degree.
Uh,
He was kind of laid back, soft spoken, not sure of himself, which that's not me. Um, yeah, that's not me. There's another one. I keep saying, "Bye for Now,"
okay.
which Amber Miller Moore's in it, myself, and a lot of other people in that movie.
Mm,
And the reason those characters, because those characters are a little bit different of what people expect from Donnie. They show a different side, right?
right.
So production wise, everybody's been amazing I work with, but as far as character wise, some of those characters start to get me out of some of the boxes of what you may expect to see. I will
Right.
say recently, and it's coming back, and then recently I did a role with Harold Jackson, the novelist, which was
Hmm.
kind of dope too. So I will say I don't know if I really have a favorite because every time up to bat so far, knock on wood, I'm getting opportunities to show them another layer.
Yeah.
So right now, DMV is getting all the love. New York and LA, get your act together. But DMV is getting all the love because every time I get up to bat, it's like they know the work I've done. They see some things that we can do different. It's like, oh, and when you can collab with people and have that, it's not just one way conversation. We have dialogue and we can really go into these characters and give our opinions and kind of go back with these directors and the producers and writers. And
Mhm.
I will say that all of them, the ones I mentioned and maybe the ones I didn't mention, have all given me personally the freedom to spread my wings in my characters.
I
And
love that, man.
as an artist, that's priceless.
Yeah.
It's priceless. That they trust you enough. And because
Yeah.
you don't understand, they trust you enough
I was gonna say,
and your skill set to be able to still tell their story
right.
and still allow you to do what you do.
Right. You're still giving the authenticity,
Right.
but in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to
Yeah.
express yourself. And you can come more out of your shell that way because you are giving them more of you,
Right.
um, in that aspect. From other folks that I've talked to,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the independent side, of course, you have more freedom,
Right.
and then you do on the the major side, major studio, major network. Um, have you had any major network experience? I saw that you appeared in one episode of Swagger.
Yes, I did.
But do you have any other episode? Do you have any other experience outside of that on the major side?
On the major side, I mean, I have smaller roles, but that one was more of a bigger role, as a co-star role. But even
Mm,
then, it was funny. Working with Reggie Rock, tremendous, amazing director and writer. But still, having the opportunity to even spread my wings a little bit in that role. I think that
yeah,
when he brought me on the set, you come in to do your job because sometimes on the bigger sets, depends on the layers of what your status of your role is. You know what you need to do. Come in, get it done, get out. Right.
right.
But they saw some things, threw me a couple extra lines here, gave me some more flexibility on some other things because, it's all about a trust thing.
Okay.
And that's why it's important for actors and artists to always be prepared and always have yourself ready, be confident, and show yourself. Because
Yeah.
that opportunity come and you think, that 3-4 lines just turned into a whole situation in a snap of a finger
Yeah.
with more footage and more different things like that. So man, it was but it is a machine. That's one thing
Right.
about the major networks. You know, you'll spend one day
Yeah.
on a scene, or sometimes certain you may shoot one episode, may take 2 weeks, besides Tyler
Right.
Perry. Because Tyler Perry is running a whole nother machine. But it can take time, so it's a lot of time on camera, a lot of direction, a lot of moving parts. So that's why it's important to know what your job is, know what your assignment is, and execute.
Hmm. Um, is it okay to be vocal on set, or before you actually do your part? I know a lot of times you have to stick to the script, like you
Right.
said, get in and get out.
Hmm.
But you said also on that set for Swagger, they were able to give you a couple more lines and let you have a little bit of freedom. Is it okay to be vocal or no?
I would say this. On a major set, I would always deem to doing your job. And that once you're approached and you kind of have those questions, I would say this about anything. If you're unsure of something, then maybe yes, ask a question, right?
Hmm.
But as far as trying to put your 2 cents in,
Yeah.
I don't wouldn't suggest all that, especially on a major set, because your role may be that one day, or you may be recurring, but you may be shooting now. We may not need you again for 6 months or whatever. So that's a little bit different. It's about relationships, right? If I
Right.
meet you today, I might not come in as if we known each other for 10 years. But at
Hmm.
the same time, I think that you do have the balance. You have to read the room. I think with independent films, a little bit different. Even with those, I think that if you have any serious questions, that you can address them ahead of time before we start getting into the working of creating the project. Because once we creating the project, it's more about, of course, you being prepared, execution, this and that. Now, if you're asking a question for understanding, then absolutely, I will. But I have, again, I have certain relationships with certain directors and writers because we've worked together so much. So I might, before we get to shoot, hey, I was just wondering, was this what you were thinking about this? Because we really
Right.
built the relationship with that. But you coming on the major networks, this and the third, is kind of just be ready for what you need to do. Like my grandfather said, God gave you 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
Right.
So listen, talk less, get the job done, and then if the opportunity presents, but yeah, just do the job, do the work.
All right. All right. Would you prefer staying on the independent side, or are you looking for more major roles?
Major roles.
Major
Um,
roles.
I can't speak of this one. I did do something with Hulu about a month ago.
Okay.
I'm getting some more
Congrats, man.
opportunities. Yeah, thank you. Doing some other things, but I will say I have a love for both because I have a love for the art.
Yes.
So monetarily, let's keep it let's keep it good. Network TV pays really
Absolutely.
good. I can't knock that. But I love the craft. So I love TV and film.
Right.
So I love being on a network doing this, but I love when I can be in a movie because it really gives you that moment to really take that character through a lot of different things. So
Hmm.
I like both of them. It's like when I play football, you have to love practice as much as you love the game. You have to love
Yes.
every aspect of it. Now, monetarily, we can't lie. You do something for HBO or some of these bigger networks, those checks are, you know, and it's also about the business of being seen, right?
Hmm.
Where you can still do great work. And I will say this is another great thing, asset about the DMV, to have a lot of our major independent artists that are getting visible across the board.
Right.
The Harolds, the Cadells, the
Yes.
Tawana Terrells, all these different type of people, they're being seen not just here. And I think that's an advantage that we have where at one time, if you did an independent project, nobody outside your city would know,
Right.
right? Where
Exactly.
now we're getting on the major networks, on the All Blacks and the Amazons and so on and so forth, where people can say, "Oh, where are they at? Oh, we didn't know they shoot in D.C. or Prince George County or stuff like that."
And in some
So
cases, they didn't even know we existed.
exactly, they
You
thought
know?
that when you think of D.C. or the DMV, they only think about the government buildings.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
think that movie magic is being done here. We got even from the major productions. We have Megamind Media, we have Octech, we got all that stuff right here at home. Top quality work that's getting done, and that's the advantage of doing both. As an artist, you want to be seen at every platform because I will say this to any young artist: it's going to always boil down to the quality of it, but you also need to be visible. How are you being seen?
Hmm.
Because you can be the greatest thing in the world in your city, but who knows it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is that balance of am I being seen? But now I will say the advantage again that we have here is our independent filmmakers out here doing it. Like they're making us very visible. We are
Yeah.
being very visible across the state and even overseas, where most people don't get that advantage.
And you guys are working 10 times as hard, or at least in my eyes,
We work.
because it
We work.
seems like this project after project that's coming out, you guys are pumping them out like hotcakes right
And we
now.
and again, and as a nature, you have to until they
Yeah.
really take notice.
Yeah.
You got to show them that we can do this at the high level. We can keep them coming. We can keep them coming with quality.
Yeah.
Like you're
Good
gonna see the work
quality.
that we getting done, and that's the biggest thing that I'm enjoying. And I've been fortunate, very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with all of these amazing talent around here,
Mhm.
writers, producers, directors, giving me the opportunity to showcase my talent. I
Yeah,
can't
man.
complain.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned it earlier, and you said you couldn't really express everything, but what's next for Donnie?
Ha! What's next? So I'm a worker. I
Mhm.
deem to be I'm like James Brown. I feel like I'm gonna be the hardest working man in show business. Nobody's gonna outwork me. So everybody's doing fa la 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 and holiday stuff. I'm working. I'm updating reels. I'm sending out emails. I'm doing that. There's no time off. Um, Movie wise, there are a few projects that's lined up for the beginning of 2024. We can't quite mention yet. Some of them in
Mhm.
pre-production, some do, but they got some good things. Um, Tapping into some other resources in different markets that have kind of been reaching out. So just kind of making myself even more
Right.
accessible and versatile on both coasts and things. And is what I'm constantly working on. And just looking at, I'm a big stickler on how can you be better?
Right.
And I
Right.
don't need someone else to come in and do it for me. I do the work. So I'm gonna sit down. I'm in process now. Looking at my reels, making sure my headshots are good. This is where we talk about the business of acting, right? Not
Mhm.
just sitting back. I thank God for all the wins we had in 22 and 23, but 24 is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Everything starts from scratch. So in reevaluating what my goals are in this career, because as you're getting more opportunities, you're doing things. Sometimes goals change.
Mhm.
And if the goals change, I need to reevaluate everything. I do a deep dive as me and the artist. I do it constantly, but especially at the end of the year, and just kind of say, okay, this is where we were successful. This is where we kind of missed it. This was the in between. Let's sharpen. I
Mhm.
go back to the lab and I sharpen. So where everybody's sleeping and resting and enjoying, I'm working.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's about as much as I give them. Because if they study long, they're gonna study wrong. I'm telling
If they
you.
study long, they're gonna study wrong.
Mhm. Promise you that.
All right. So, what I like to do at the end in closing is give you the last word, the final word, whether that's a piece of advice, either that you would like to give or somebody has given to you, words of
Mhm.
encouragement, or a particular quote that you like to live by.
Got you. I got to.
Okay.
One, Kevin, I want to first give you a shout out. Thank you, my brother, for reaching
Oh,
out to me. You.
absolutely, man.
I thought I was one of the busiest men in show business, but I guess you up there too. We have a little club for the business people in show business. So thank you for the opportunity. I
Yes,
came up.
most
I came up
definitely.
with a quote a couple years ago, a few years back, um, and I kind of live by this quote, and it keeps me moving. This is actually mine. So winning is great. Failures will happen, but quitting is not an option.
Wow. Winning is great. Failure is not.
Failures will happen.
Failure is what happened.
Failures will happen,
Oh, gotcha.
but quitting is not an option.
Wow.
But that's on
Winning
my
is
Instagram.
great. Yeah, winning is great. Failures will happen, but
But
quitting is
quitting
not an
is not an
option.
option. Now, the best advice I got in the industry was a project I was on with Miss Daphne Reed, who you
Uh-huh.
know is Miss Aunt Viv,
Mhm.
and she gave this to me. It was actually 2 years ago because it came up in my feed on my pictures when we were rapping on a project together. And she said, "Don't let the successes go to your head, and don't let the failures go to your heart,
I love that too.
because in this industry, it's like a roller coaster, up and
Oh,
down and up and down."
yeah,
And you never want to get off focus of what you should be doing and
right.
the whys. And when you can answer the whys and know what you're doing and why you're doing it, like I said, and that kind of, it's funny how they kind of go together with my quote and her quote, but I live by those in this time, this environment, and in this industry, because that's what keeps me going.
Mhm.
I don't just lean on my motivation, because that could change daily, but my disciplines are what's going to push me, and my hunger and my desire.
Absolutely, man. Well, Donnie Brown, It was a
Hey,
pleasure having you.
absolutely, brother.
Thank you for joining the Black Script Storytellers. I appreciate your time.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate your knowledge and expertise.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, just thank you and keep it going, man. Keep
Appreciate
grinding,
it.
keep hustling,
Yes,
keep
sir.
pushing, keep repping for the DMV. You know
Hey,
what I'm saying?
yes, sir. Absolutely. And look, and hopefully you'll have me back when I got some more stuff to add to the resume and
Absolutely.
things, you know.
Absolutely. All right, bro.
All right, bro. Be good, man. Thank you, Kevin.
You be safe, man.
You
Peace.
too. Peace.